My name is Dr. Agos and welcome to another Pasha Communication Skills series. Okay, so for those of you who have not seen me before, let me explain again my expertise in terms of the topic of communication skills. I have a BA and MA in communications. My PhD is in transnational studies. And I have an experience of over 17 years as a corporate communications consultant dealing with multinational corporations. So that is why I'm making this channel, so I can share you the benefits of having great communication skills so you can benefit personally and professionally in your lives to achieve success, and why I am the expert for this field. So in the first video, I shared about the 3 powerful communication tips. You can go and find the video by yourself. But in the second video, I want to talk about a very important thing that people tend to overlook. And that thing is, let me write it down here, is tonality. People think that when you're doing communications, it's enough to provide data, information, and just kind of say what you need to say. And if you have good data, that's enough. Unfortunately, it's not. It's not enough. Because we live in a distracted society. We live in a society that tends to disbelieve. We live in a society with a lot of competing information. So how do you cut through that challenges? One is by first, you gotta have the strong logic, of course, the data, the logic, the deductive logic, the inductive logic, whatever you need to do, you need to have that down pat. That's correct. However, that's not enough. You need to have what is called tonality, good tonality. For the Indonesian audiences, I'm from Indonesia, that's why I'm saying it's called nada, right? You know, nada in Indonesia means, tone, your tone. This is your voice. You need to have a good, powerful voice, and that is why. Why is that important? Instead of saying, oh, this is important, let me explain why. Let me break it down to you. All right. Look, here's using this simple, straight, you get the point, right? I don't like doing the fancy stuff and all that. This cuts through to the core of what it is that you need to understand. First, when you communicate, let me draw a line here. Okay? And when you communicate with words, let's say words, right? That's on the upper half. Let's do the upper half and lower half. Let's do the upper half first. The upper half is your words. Okay? And then you will have your data. You have your logic. Okay? All that stuff, right? What this does is it communicates consciously. I'm just going to write C, consciously, to your conscious brain. What is it? Okay? Is it important? Oh, very important. Okay? So you communicate that, right? Sequence it. However, underneath there's something here that you need to know. Okay? You need to communicate with the tonality. This flies under the radar of what it is that you're saying. It flies under the radar, but it communicates in a greater depth of what it is you're trying to say. And in many ways, how you're saying something, in a way, becomes more important than what you're saying. And research has shown that. So how you say something is important. Okay. So what does the tonality do? it connects to your emotions. It connects to emotions, either positive or negative, and then it goes through your unconscious. I'm just gonna write down you here. So you have the conscious and the unconscious, and you have the words, data, logic, and then the tonality, using your voice. And this goes in parallel. If you're all tone and no substance, that does not work too. Although sometimes it can work, but it will not be long lasting. If you have only logic, you have the data, but no one listens. So to be effective, you have to have the logic and the tone. So that's what you got to do. Let me give you an example. As a corporate trainer, when I ask people, say, if I ask, so why do you think so-and-so's like this? Or, why do you think there's this problem? Why? Downward tone, why? And people say, well, I don't know why. Who cares? I don't know. Or people become silent when I say why. And people are like, no one answers. But if I say why, an upward tone, why, and I see hands starting up, start to go like this, because the upward tone, it stimulates an answer. So when I ask either students or executives, why, like downward, why, and then follow up with a question. And then usually I get no answers. But when I go why, then I get answers. Because the upward tone, it stimulates a response. Conversely, if I try to make an instruction in an upward tone, it becomes a lot less effective. If I tell somebody, students or, at work, please do this. I need you to do this ASAP, please. Compared to, please do this ASAP, please do this. It's less effective, the second one, because there's this thing, right? So good tonality, the tone will be in accordance with the data. So if you want to communicate something to be convincing, you need to use a lot of downward tone. If you want to ask a question, you need to have an upward tone. And there's a tone also, a tone of mystery. Okay, I'll teach you about this. The tone of mystery. What is that? So if you're doing calls, right? And let's say you're doing a cold call for a sales, right? And the person is on the phone and you're talking and you're trying to remind them of an information that you sent them, a prospectus, let's say. You're a stockbroker, you send a prospectus. And then you want to call them to ask them about it. Right? And you want to know whether they recall something. A bad way to ask is, well, do you recall that the information that you received? Do you recall? Or do you recall me? Or do you recall the information? If you ask like that on the phone, people will say, no, I don't recall. What? I don't recall. I don't recall anything. Right? Because the way you ask doesn't incite that mystery. But if you ask something like this, if you recall, then the other person on the phone will be, do I recall? Maybe I don't. Do I? So instead of saying, do you recall? Say something like this. Do you recall? If you recall, It's weird, but it works. If you say, if you recall, even you make that face, even there on the tone, I guarantee you the other person will, on the other side, will be like, do I recall? You know. So they're more likely to be more cooperative to recall whatever it is that you want them to recall. Same thing when I teach my students. If I try to remind them of something that I said 2 weeks ago, and I would say something like, if you recall, a week ago, and students, I'll find everybody, 85% will go like, But if I say, well, do you recall? Do you recall what was said last week? And everyone will be just have a blank stare. Do I recall? No, I don't recall. I don't recall anything. You see? Tonality is everything. Okay. This is the body language. We'll talk about that later. Now, we'll just do the voice. So this video is on tonality. It is important. It's not so much what you say, but how you say it. How you say it. If you say, I have the perfect solution, compared to if you say, I have the perfect solution with the p. Or if I say, I have powerful communication tips, compared to, I have powerful communication tips. Powerful. Powerful. It's a different vibe you get. Sometimes I need to speak fast. Sometimes I need to slow it down a bit. That's called pace. So that's a different lesson altogether. But now focus on the tone. Practice your tone. So go, you know, do your thing. And before you give a speech or a meeting, that's important. Try not to drink cold water because it tightens up your throat. What you want is to drink warm water or slightly hotter water. That's why singers do this. They carry their warm bottles of water everywhere because they know it puts them at an optimal effect. So that's what I want you to do. Okay? So that's the lesson on tonality. Understand it, practice it, know why it's important, and then after knowing why, practice it. And then I would love to hear your comments and thoughts down below to see what happens when you try to practice it. Okay, sometimes there are cultural nuances, I know, then share that with me and then I can respond to you accordingly. And again, if you like this video or find it useful or informative, please click like and subscribe. Thank you, and this is Dr. Agus with Pasha's Communication Skills Series. Bye-bye.